What if I told you that one of the world's biggest pop stars is quietly rewriting the rules of politics, identity, and rebellion without ever shouting into a microphone? Billie Eilish doesn't need rallies, hashtags, or political debates to make a statement. She does it with a glance, a lyric, a gesture. Every oversized outfit, every whispering note, every pause in her song carries a message louder than most politicians' speeches. She speaks not about governments, but about the human heart, not about laws, but about feelings. Imagine a world where fashion becomes resistance, where silence becomes a scream, where crying is a revolutionary act. Billie's music doesn't tell you what to think. It teaches you how to feel, how to question, how to exist authentically. Her activism isn't on a stage. It's in every empathetic chord, in every song about depression, identity, or love. She challenges the objectification of women, defends the freedom of LGBTQ+ individuals, and transforms personal darkness into a manifesto of strength. Every lyric is a tiny rebellion, every beat a subtle protest against consumer culture and fake fame. When she says, "Be yourself," that's already revolutionary. She isn't offering advice. She's issuing a call to arms for the human spirit. Even in silence, Billie communicates louder than most public figures ever could. Her voice resonates because it's real, messy, human, not curated, not packaged, not tamed. Young people don't just listen. They feel, they reflect, they act. Billie Eilish proves that courage doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers, and sometimes that whisper changes the world. If you think pop music is just entertainment, think again. This is the story of a quiet revolution, one melody at a time. Billie's view of politics. A silent resistance. Billie Eilish doesn't see politics as something limited to ballots, rallies, or Twitter statements. To her, politics is the sum of the small human choices we make every day. What we wear, what we say, and who we listen to, all of it is political. Billie expresses her stance quietly but firmly. She's an artist who resists not by shouting, but by whispering. In her songs, she doesn't talk about governments. She talks about people. She doesn't discuss politics. She discusses emotions, because she knows that change starts in the heart. Her music captures the anger of youth without turning it into a slogan. In songs like "All the Good Girls Go to Hell," she tackles environmental collapse with irony, but never in a lecturing tone. Instead, with emotional awakening. For Billie, politics beats to the rhythm of conscience. She may not call herself an activist, yet her stance speaks louder than most politicians. She doesn't try to change the world. She invites people to think. In interviews, she often says, "I'm not a political person, but I stand up for what's right." That sentence defines her essence. Billie hides her political messages and metaphors within her music. She leads not with words, but with feelings. Her silence is her weapon. Sometimes a glance, a gesture, or a costume becomes a manifesto. That's why she has become more than a singer to the new generation. She's an emotional leader. Young people have learned from her how to think, feel, and resist in new ways. Billie's silence is a scream, a reminder that you don't need to speak to make a statement. Her politics lives in the act of being human itself. Billie's advocacy, activism through emotions. Billie Eilish doesn't take the stage to save the world, yet every song she writes reshapes hearts. For her, activism isn't a duty, it's a state of emotional honesty. Whenever she speaks, it feels like she's saying, "I'm not here to show kindness, I'm here to make you feel it." Billie offers feelings, not slogans, to her generation. She's become the voice of a youth that believes being a woman isn't a burden, it's a strength. Even her oversized clothes carry a message. My body is not for your commentary. That's not fashion, that's textile rebellion. She openly supports the LGBTQ+ community, not as a performance, but as a natural part of who she is. Love has no definition, she says, and humanity has no boundaries. Her environmental awareness goes beyond words. She lives vegan, embraces sustainable brands, and speaks against plastic waste and climate neglect. But she never does it for show. It's simply who she is. That's Billie's difference. She lives her values, she doesn't advertise them. Through songs about depression, anxiety, and identity, she tells people, "You are not alone." That itself is a political act, because honesty has become rebellion. Billie Eilish turns the repressed emotions of youth into a manifesto of freedom. In her music, crying isn't weakness. It's the purest form of being human. Even the crescendo of Happier Than Ever feels like a political roar, a declaration of independence from a woman who draws her own boundaries. Billie tells the world, "Be yourself." That's already revolutionary. Her activism isn't with a megaphone, it's with a microphone. That's why Billie Eilish isn't just the voice of pop. She's the melody of a moral awakening. A rebellion about womanhood and identity. Billie Eilish's stance reminds the world that being a woman is not a weakness. It's a form of rebellion. She proved that women can exist not only through beauty, but through their minds. Her oversized stage outfits were not meant to hide her body, but to free it, a kind of armor of her own making. Billie's quiet protest against the objectification of women became one of her most powerful statements. While everyone was busy discussing what she wore, she made them question why they cared. That wasn't fashion, that was cultural defiance. By saying, "What you think about my body is not my responsibility," she taught the world a lesson. She rejected the idea that female identity must fit society's expectations. Her feminism doesn't shout, it grows through awareness. Billie tells young women, accepting yourself is the most revolutionary act. That's why she's more than a musician. She's a symbol of consciousness for her generation. She reminds women they exist not to be seen, but to be heard. Billie Eilish's feminism isn't built on anger, but on quiet confidence. The power of women in her art isn't in the words, it's in the essence of her existence. Every glance, every melody she creates is a note played against the quiet collapse of patriarchy. Love has no labels, LGBTQ+, and emotional freedom. Billie Eilish is an artist who believes that love cannot be confined to labels. For her, it's not about who you are. It's about what you feel. By saying everyone deserves to exist as who they are, she gave millions of young people the courage to be themselves. She doesn't support the LGBTQ+ community as a trend, but as a truth about being human. In interviews, she's said, "It's weird to me that people have to explain who they are. That alone is a manifesto." Because to Billie, true freedom means existing without the need to prove your identity. Her songs never label love. They explore it as a raw connection, not a definition. That's why her lyrics feel genderless, pure, and honest. Billie quietly dismantles the social molds that define normal. She believes love is a universal language, one spoken not in anger, but in empathy. That's why young people see her not just as a pop star, but as the voice of self-discovery. Billie Eilish reminds the world that simply existing can be a political act. Love whoever you love. Just be honest. That's her message. Simple, human, and revolutionary. What she rejects: fake fame and rigid dogmas. In Billie Eilish's world, the most dangerous thing is anything fake. She rejects political polarization, hate speech, and rigid ideologies, the walls that make people forget their essence. Standing up for what's right doesn't mean picking a side, it means speaking with conscience, she says. That line defines her entire philosophy. Billie feels uneasy about how religion and politics often divide people. She doesn't believe in absolute truths because life itself is fluid. Blind devotion, whether to faith or ideology, feels like a cage to her, so she's built her own sense of morality, her own belief system. She doesn't trust the artificial glow of fame either. Her attitude seems to whisper, "Fame doesn't empower you, it consumes you." Despite her millions of followers, she remains simple, grounded, and human. Billie resists the fake happiness sold by consumer culture. For her, real joy has nothing to do with appearance. It's about authenticity. Even her silence carries a message. The greatest rebellion isn't rejecting everything. It's staying true to yourself. Billie Eilish continues her most elegant protest against the modern gods of fame, money, and validation. The final thought: Billie Eilish is more than a pop star. She is a mirror reflecting the complexities of our time. Her music, her choices, her very presence challenge us to reconsider what it means to exist authentically. She doesn't demand attention. She earns it through honesty, vulnerability, and courage. Through quiet rebellion, she shows that activism can be felt, not shouted. That resistance can be poetic, not violent. That change begins in the heart, not in headlines. From defending women's rights and LGBTQ+ freedoms to addressing mental health and environmental awareness, her art carries weight far beyond entertainment. She rejects fake fame, rigid dogmas, and societal pressures, proving that staying true to oneself is the greatest revolution of all. In her whispers, we hear screams of authenticity. In her silence, we find courage. Billie Eilish doesn't just perform songs. She composes movements, she orchestrates reflections. She teaches generations how to think, feel, and exist fully. And perhaps the most powerful lesson she offers is this: being yourself, in all your complexity and contradiction, is already revolutionary. Every listener becomes part of that quiet revolution. One thought, one emotion, one heartbeat at a time.